welcome to another episode of OrigaMinis with +4 Charisma. Today, I'm going to show you how to fold a origami couatl. Looks like this. In the D&D 5e Monster Manual, Couatls have a challenge rating of 4. They are medium celestial beings who are lawful good, which is a good thing, because Couatls are also immune to any form of scrying, thought reading, or abilities that would allow you to read their emotions. That being said, they themselves are telepathic and they know every language. If you want to learn more about Couatls, you can find them on page 43 of the D&D 5e Monster Manual. We're going to get folding in just a second, but before I do, I want to note that I would love it if you would try and fold along with me. So, without further ado, let's get folding. Start with a square piece of paper, turn your paper over, and we're going to do a pre-crease from corner to corner. So match the opposing corners, fold, and enforce the crease in the middle, unfold it. Take one of the edges of the paper and fold it in slightly on itself. On the other side of the crease line, you're going to do the exact same thing on the side that matches up with it. Now from here, you're going to create a fan-like pattern for a few folds, alternating the two sides you're working on. Rotate the paper so that one of the creaseless sides ends up on the bottom, and then fold up a little bit of the edge of that bottom, and the flap you create should be a similar size to the initial fan fold that you made on the other two sides. Rotate the paper once again and do the exact same thing on the other side. So now we're going to make sure that the top corner is unfolded. Bring the two sides where you've done those pre-folds initially in on themselves. So they should just easily collapse along the fold. Flip over the paper and fold them over one more time so that they land on the top of the paper rather than being on the bottom. Make sure to tuck the corners under because the creases that you did on the bottom of the paper will get in the way a little bit. Reinforce those folds. Fold the little tab that's sticking out the top over, just sort of flatten it in on itself. So you're going to turn the paper over, and there should be a little triangle tab that's created by those two bottom sides that you folded in on themselves. Open that up a little bit and then push it down on itself and smash it down. It should flatten into a diamond shape. Turn the paper over once again. Here I'm just neatening up the tabs on the side a little bit. And after this, we're going to make a basic bird base for those who are familiar with the term. Fold the paper together, and we're actually going to invert the original crease line. Unfold the paper and rotate it to do the same thing on the opposing corners. Flip the paper once again. Fold the paper in on itself, but this time matching these sides together. So you're creating a rectangle. Do the exact same thing on the opposing side. Here's a top view of what your paper should look like. Now, simply follow the folds to bring it in on itself and create a diamond shape. Press the creases in place. Fold the top flap in on itself, crease it together, do the same thing on the other side, and then do the same thing on the bottom, meeting the middle crease line with these two creases. Unfold them, fold the top down where the creases come to the edge of the paper. Make sure to line the top point up with the middle crease in the paper. And this is a little bit of a tricky fold if you've never done it before. You're going to pull the bottom of the top flap up, and this will naturally pull up the edges of the paper. From here, smash them into place along the crease lines that you just made. Make sure to keep your little diamond at the top on top. So pull it out of the crease fold. Do the exact same thing that you just did on the other side. It's a little bit harder on this side because the folds we did on the edges of the paper make it a little thicker. Reinforce the creases and flatten it out. Now you're going to rotate the paper so that the little diamond shape that we created will be at the top. This is actually going to be the head of our coatl. Fold in the two edges of the top flap, once again meeting the crease in the middle of the paper. Once again, make sure to maintain that little diamond we formed at the top on top of those folds, so sort of tuck them under that. That's what I'm doing right there. Press it all into place. Reinforce the creases. This is what it looks like now. And the next thing that you're going to do is fold that top flap in on itself so it creates a thin line. Now it's time to make the wings, and this is a little bit tricky. Up at the top of the bottom flap, grasp underneath with your thumb and the top of it with your index finger, and then use your thumb to push that flap up into the fold at the top. Use your other hand to smash it together and force the creases. Should look like this. And then fold the extra bit of flap in on itself. And what this is going to do is it's going to make the tail be a similar width to the head, going down the body of the coatl. Now do the exact same wing fold on the opposite side and make them as symmetrical as possible. So here I'm trying to give you a little bit better of a view of how to fold this, because it really is kind of a tricky fold. And then once again, fold that bottom flap in on itself to make it a similar size. Now, unfold that bottom flap and smash it down. The bottom flap is what's going to form our tail, so we want to fold the edges in on themselves to try and make it a similar size to the head flap on the opposite side. Now it's time to put feathers on the wings. In order to create this feather effect, I'm going to do a series of crimps along the wings. I'm going to pick a point on the paper where it looks like the wing would naturally sort of peek up, and use that as the central point for the top of my crimps, and try and fan the crimps outwards, like so. When you get to the end of the wing, The fan fold we did at the beginning already sort of creates a natural feathery tip, so we're going to leave that on there and use that as our wing tip. Here's what it looks like on this side. Do the exact same thing on the other side, making sure to try and make them as symmetrical as possible. You want the exact same amount of crimps on both sides. Fold the entire thing in on itself, keeping the smooth side on the outside. And then pinch the crease to reinforce it. And now I'm going to stylize the body of the Couatl. To do that, I'm going to take the infold and make a strong crease line. Pinch that crease line and then use your fingers underneath to reinforce the mountain fold on the outside. If you saw the Mimic tutorial, this is a similar fold to most of the creases that we did on the Mimic tutorial, only rather than doing it on an entire sheet of paper, we're just doing it on one fold. Slightly where you made that diamond-shaped piece at the top, push down to just invert the fold and make it hang down like so that it creates a head. Continue to do the stylized fold down the body of the Couatl, where you take the infold on the back and make a mountain fold and then sort of pinch it together and pull it around. Now for the tail, there's going to be a few different options. For this model, I'm simply inverting it so that it naturally fans outwards. So this is what we have right now. Just sort of shape the wings how you want them to fall. So if you want it to stand up, you have a few different options. The easiest is to simply take the bottom of the tail and invert it to create a base. This doesn't look as nice, but it's quick, and if you need a Origami fast for your D&D campaign or other RPG, then this is probably the easiest way to do it quickly. That's what that would look like. Another option is instead to make another crimp in the tail, but make this one much more deep than the others. And instead of folding it back, you're going to fold it forward in this one. And then the tail would fall into the front. I think this looks better than having the tail go behind, but it did take a little bit more work to get it to stand up like that, but still doable.
Another option would simply be to glue it or tape it to some sort of base if you don't want to be an origami purist. And if you did this, then you could really shape your tail in any way you wanted, either curl it around or make it come up a different way. Another option would be to attach it to some kind of wire or toothpick and then attach that to the base so it would look more like it was floating or flying.
And there you have it, our Origami Couatl. I hope you folded a Couatl along with me. If you did, I would love to see it. You can post it on either my Facebook page or my Twitter. The links will be below. You can drop a comment to let me know what you thought about this tutorial. If you need help with a particular fold, feel free to ask in the comments below as well. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, subscribing to my channel where you'll also get notifications about more OrigaMinis with +4 charisma, as well as videos on some more light-hearted topics. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The links for all those will be below. So, happy folding!